Go ahead and tell me your name.
I'm Dr. Jessica Russell, and I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Communication Studies.
What did you have for breakfast yesterday?
Oatmeal with banana.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, that's about right. Okay.
When you answer the questions, just look in here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to stand over here so it feels natural.
Okay.
All right, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Okay, so would you describe how comfortable were you with accessibility before the program?
So I heard the call for the I read the call for the program, and it sounded great. The word accessibility is kind of one of those buzzwords, and I was like, this sounds wonderful. Like, sign me up. I'm always a big advocate for being a dual teacher and a learner and different ways to expand, my pedagogy. But my actual idea of what accessibility was very vague, and I was quite naive with it. So I knew that it was a good thing, but in terms of what it was or what it entailed, I had very little background.
Have you had any disabled students or in your classes? Or?
I've had several students work with DSS, but the way that it worked was, they would give me the paperwork, we would discuss kind of accommodations, and it was typically testing accommodations. So I think this is my 5th year here, and in that time, I've had several that have worked through DSS for examination purposes, but in terms of accommodations for materials in the class, I hadn't experienced any.
So what did you like about the structure of the Faculty Advocate program?
One of the greatest benefits of the Faculty Advocate program is that it really worked with my schedule, and so I was able to tell them my teaching schedule when I was here, what days on campus I was here, and the staff was really willing to work with my schedule and find time slots that were available. And the training itself and the mentoring itself wasn't that time consuming. They gave a lot of information, but they broke it down in a very concise way that also afforded the opportunity to walk away with some handouts and resource tools that I could further reference. And so I was really flexible with my time and schedule.
Did you work with a group, or were you working one-on-one with that?
I worked one-on-one. So I picked a course that I wanted to start the project with. And I brought that course and all the subsequent materials to the Ames Center and was mentored one-on-one. And we first started with kind of the Word documents, and then we went through PowerPoints and Excel in terms of translating all of that and ensuring that it was accessible. So we worked one-on-one, and we'd start with a project, like a template of one thing, and then I would go on my own and translate that to all the other materials and then bring it back.
Try to keep your eyes over here more.
Okay.
So how has the program influenced your course development?
In terms of influencing course development, they're just kind of the key takeaways, easy takeaways from the program, like font considerations and template considerations and color contrast, just easy quick fixes I now think about when I'm developing curriculum and developing new materials. Whereas before, I would just focus on the content and not necessarily how that content was structured.
Can you name a practical example of a change you made to your course?
I think that the biggest practical example is just going through and ensuring that my headers and my content is structured according to a format instead of just kind of haphazardly, not that it was haphazard before, but I would just design it so that it looked good to me and not recognizing that individuals with, looking at it on different mediums or through different lenses might see a very different version of the material that I see. So ensuring kind of looking in and expanding the lens through which I look at my materials through. I think another big practical takeaway was just learning that different programs don't have the same fonts and they don't have the same, so things that would work in my program because I had the Windows version of it or whatever might not translate when somebody's accessing that material from their phone. And so many of our students access things from phones. So just quick little fixes that I could do to make sure that it was accessible to all students has been huge. I think another thing is really focusing. I teach a research methods class, and we have a lot of tables, and recognizing limitations of a lot of the tables, and the tables that I would take from the text and reference. Like, you would think like, oh, it's a text reference, so it's great, but through the training I kind of learned like how we could even enhance them further, and how to change and alter and make them more accessible for students with not only, you know, vision impairments, but really made it accessible to all of my students. And just things like the color contrast when I teach a large lecture is so much more helpful for the people in the back, that it's just easier to see. So they're not fighting those additional barriers.
So how hard was it to make the changes to your course and your development process for courses?
For my classes, I think the nature of the class, the materials there wasn't a lot of multimedia. So I actually believe that I probably circumvented a lot of the challenges of kind of adapting the material. A lot of the material also was material that I had created on my own. So jumping through kind of issues with copyright and how to like translate those things, I kind of circumvented all those. So for me, it was a really, really easy process. Also, the nature of the course that I focused on with this training program, the content doesn't change a whole lot. And so it was one of those things that I was willing to put in a lot of the time up front, knowing that it's not like every semester that content changes. A t-test, or how to run an ANOVA, or how to read, you know, these tables, and teaching, you know, statistical analyses. Like, the structure of it's going to be the same. And so putting in that time, I knew that like in the end it's going to be really helpful and useful in a repeat manner.
Okay, cool. Those are all my questions. Do you have any other observations you want to make about the program, or any other questions?
I think one of the benefits of the program is that the one-on-one training and the time involved, the resources are there, but it's not all that time intensive in terms of like your requirement to sit there and be trained. A lot of it is they have these ready-made materials and these like amazing handouts that you can take either, you know, physically or electronically with you to reference. And going back as part of the program, I agreed to serve as a liaison for our faculty and then also our graduate teaching students. And I was able to do that, like sign up for that and feel confident, even though I'm I'm still new to this process. And I probably through my training scratched the surface of what could be accomplished through it. But in doing so, I know that I have those resources to reference if I have questions that I can't answer, and that we also have a staff available on campus, and luckily like in our same department, like building. So it's very easy to go to if there's questions that I don't know how to answer.
Okay, that's a wrap.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.